Well, good Friday morning, everybody, and it is June 11th, 2021. And today is the birthday for one of my dear old friends from the old days, and so I will wish them a happy birthday today. Have a very blessed and happy day. Today, hopefully, we will have a blessed day. We're supposed to get a little bit of rain, though it's only supposed to be about 1/10 of an inch, so that's not much of a gift. We don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth, though this one might be more of a My Little Pony than a horse. So with that, we're going to be finishing up the 19th chapter of Acts today. And we left off with Artemis, or Demetrius rather, stirring up some trouble because of the lack of business, really. He's claiming he's defending the goddess Artemis from being dismissed, but really he's worried about her being dismissed because he makes silver idols, and the other silversmiths make silver idols to this goddess, who is the goddess of Ephesus. The Ephesians have a temple there, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, dedicated to her, and they make their money selling these statuettes and whatnot to the people coming to visit the shrines, the pilgrimages. So it's really not about Artemis at all. It is about his livelihood, his money. But he stirred up some trouble. So we left him with that yesterday. And today we're going to finish the rest of the story, as they say. And we're going to continue talking about Demetrius, Artemis, and the troubles in Ephesus. So with that, we're going to look at, like I said, the end of chapter 19. We're going to finish it up. Verses 28 to 41 is what we're looking at this morning. Alrighty. When they heard this, they were enraged and shouted, "Great is Artemis of the Ephesians!" The city was filled with confusion, and people rushed together to the theater, dragging with them Gaius and Aristarchus, Macedonians who were Paul's traveling companions. Paul wished to go into the crowd, but the disciples would not let him. Even some officials of the province of Asia, who were friendly to him, sent him a message urging him not to venture into the theater. Meanwhile, some were shouting one thing, some another, for the assembly was in confusion, and most of them did not know why they had come together. Some of the crowd gave instructions to Alexander, whom the Jews had pushed forward, and Alexander motioned for silence and tried to make a defense before the people. But when they recognized that he was a Jew, for about 2 hours, all of them shouted in unison, "Great is Artemis of the Ephesians!" But when the town clerk had quieted the crowd, he said, "Citizens of Ephesus, who is there that does not know the city of Ephesians is the temple keeper of the great Artemis and of the statue that fell from heaven? Since these things cannot be denied, you ought to be quiet and do nothing rash. You have brought these men who are neither temple robbers nor blasphemers of our goddess. If therefore Demetrius and the artisans with him have a complaint against anyone, the courts are open, and there are proconsuls who let them bring charges there against one another. If there is anything further you want to know, it must be settled in the regular assembly, for we are in danger of being charged with rioting today, since there is no cause that we can give to justify the commotion." When he had said this, he dismissed the assembly. Okay, and I'll deal with the end of that first. The city clerk comes in, and he's actually the mayor. That would be like the position of a mayor in our structure. He comes in and puts down an iron fist because Ephesus is a free city. They are under Roman rule, but they are, as long as they pay what the taxes the Romans want and the city officials keep the peace, the Romans are letting them be, and they can pretty much do their own thing. So they are privileged. They're about the third largest city, though, in that region at the time, or perhaps in the known world at that time. So they are a large city, and so they have some special privileges. They are allowed to have self-rule as long as they pay basically the tribute to Rome, and they keep the peace. And if they don't keep the peace, if the Romans find out that the peace is not being kept, because Rome does not like discord and disturbances. And the way that Rome, remember how they pac Romana. How do they keep the peace of Rome? With an iron fist. They come in and they crush it. And people, they think you're a problem maker, you're going to be dead. And they're going to come in, and if you can't keep the peace, you're going to be dead. Okay? So the town clerk, the mayor, he wants to keep the peace in the worst way. It behooves him to keep them under control. So he's dealing with this quickly and abruptly, as quickly as he can anyway. It goes on for several hours apparently. But they are in danger of being charged with rioting. If they're charged with rioting, if the Romans find out, again, it's no longer a free city. They're going to get it's going to be trouble in River City, as they say. So back to where we were at yesterday. Remember that, and I said in the beginning, Demetrius really isn't doing this about good old Artemis. I would suspect he may be a devout follower of hers. He may not be. I'm going to guess that he's using that as a ploy to get other people on board, and so are the other artisans. I'm not going to assign to them a purity of intent here, just because I know how human beings are. Here we run into something that we can relate to our own life, in our own life experience. It says here that a lot of these people that were in the square didn't know why they were even there. They're just there screaming and hollering and trying to raise this ruckus. But I'll back up just a little bit. Notice that Paul didn't get into the fray. He's being held back, and that's kind of, I kind of like that. It's kind of almost a little comedy relief there, because you can just almost see Paul struggling. Let me in there, and they're holding him back, and probably because they know that if he goes in there, it's really going to get nasty. He's going to stir things up more, and the crowd's going to be more stirred up because they're going to see Paul. Maybe they haven't recognized him, but if they realize who he is and he's the one that's been responsible for all these converts, that then it's going to go off the train will go off the tracks, and the real problems, and the mayor and the clerk is only going to have one choice, and that's to start really hammering down on people. So maybe that's why they've held him back. But at any rate, a lot of these people, it tells us, don't know why they're there. They're just there because some people certainly just like trouble. Some people just enjoy chaos. Some people just want to see Rome burn, as they say. We have those people today. You see them, they're taking advantage. These riots that we've endured for the last year or more, these people see a chance to go out and riot and loot and cause problems and just be, wilding is a word that we used to use back. I forget what book that came from, but that's basically what they're doing. They're out wilding. They're out just think, hey, all the rules are off. We can do whatever we want. And I think there's that certain mentality that people are people, and it doesn't matter how far back you go. There's a certain segment of the population that they want to do that. They want an excuse to go out and raise this ruckus and to just go crazy. And so we've got that going on here. So it tells us some of these people have no idea what they're doing. But back up to apply this to our own selves, to our own situations, and to the world today. And I won't go any further than that because I don't want to get into politics on that if I can avoid it. Most of you know how I feel about these things. But here, again, Demetrius is not told them the real reason of why he wants to cut to the chase this concerning the way. Remember, we talked about that in verse 23 yesterday, 23 yesterday. About that time, no little disturbance broke out concerning the way. Why he wants to deal with the way is because he wants to get these people to come back to Artemis and buy his little trinkets, because it's costing his pocketbook. So he stirs up he comes up with this other story, and this is what gets other people all ginned up and causes a ruckus. Same way in our world today. Most of these things you're seeing, these disturbances, the things they're telling you are the reason for the disturbance. That's not the reason for the disturbance. Trust me. Most people that come to me and want marital counseling or other types of things, the things that they tell me that are the problem and what are causing the issues, I know this from my own life, my own failed marriage, my divorce. The reasons I was giving back then were not the real reasons. It took me decades to come to a realization of that, even to be able to admit it to myself, because that's the problem. A lot of times we won't even admit it to ourselves, so we can't tell the pastor, we can't tell the counselor, we can't tell our spouse or our loved ones or our family what the reason is, because we won't even admit it to ourselves. Demetrius probably here it's all about the goddess, not about my pocketbook. He probably wouldn't even admit it to himself. I'm going to give him that much credit. And we do that today. Until you really sit down and you really examine yourself, examine the situation, and you really try to figure out for yourself. Things on the national level and international level get really complicated. I'm not sure many of us can figure out what the real reason was for lots of things, but trust me that generally the reason it's put forth is not the reason. Like I said, almost every time when I'm doing some counseling with someone that's having marital issues or what have you, I'm very keenly aware that what they're telling me is not the real problem. Even in the case of infidelity, infidelity isn't the real problem. Infidelity is the result of the problem. And so that's where I think this brings us in this, which maybe is a strange place to take this, but are we able to really look under ourselves? Before we criticize others, though, for not being able to do it, we need to be able to do it ourselves and look at, why am I doing the things I'm doing that are self-destructive, perhaps, or destructive to others? What's my real reason behind it? And until you're able to admit that to yourself, I don't think you can correct it, because you'll just find another thing to gin up and say, well, that's the reason I'm raising the stink about this thing. And I see that in church even, and I'm keenly aware that sometimes the reason that two people are at each other's throats is not the project we're working on. It's something else that might have been 50 years ago. And until they bury that hatchet, they're just going to keep grabbing new knives. So with that, I'm going to let you go for today. Tomorrow we start a new chapter. We jump right into 20, and have a very blessed day. And please be a blessing to someone today, and pray for rain. Maybe it'll get more rain than they've predicted. Like 10 times would be great, or 20 times. A couple inches would be great. So, all right, we will see you in the morning. God bless you.